Hey guys, welcome back to From the Depths, another episode of Chow Builders Year in Review. Looks like this is, well, episode 5 now after reviewing some Metacraft, some Techcraft, some historic builds, and some mechs. And finally, we're looking at my new model army. So basically, sorry, before we go there, I think, yeah, there's 8 units here, and I'll try to be quick because they're quite small, so hopefully we can cover all of them. The story is when I started playing from the depths, I actually started building small and compact just um, as a good way to learn all the systems quickly. So I built an old model army, but at that time I was afraid to use railguns. As you can imagine, the results weren't that good. Um, and this is the last unit I ever built for my old model army, which was pretty good. I kept upgrading it as I learned more and more about the game. So now it's part of the new army. And then this here uh, is the first brand new unit of the second army. But yeah, I'll just quickly do a small introduction of each craft, and then we'll go into a little bit more depth about their uh, design philosophy and features, and we can see a bit of combat demonstration. So this one is called the Viper's Grace. It's modeled off of Eldar Hovertank. 40,000 materials, 15 firepower, way under the volume limit. So the firepower is a bit weak, but um, what it does is they're meant to work in groups. They're flankers. They can strafe to the side. They can move very quickly and surround the target and get some shots in from the back. The main gun is here. Sorry. Um, which has a pretty decent firing speed. It's a 117 millimeter AP heat railgun, which kind of just probes the back of enemy units for weak spots. And this is a very cheap little um, diff hash cannon, more for decoration, but it can certainly get lucky as well. And all of these units are equipped with missile defense, either in the form of decoys or anti-missiles, and they have chaff and um, smoke and shields as well. This one is modeled off of a Tau Hovertank. It's called the Virtuous Pass. Similar cost and volume, if not a bit more dense. 30 missile firepower, so it's definitely got more raw firepower than the other one, but less finesse since these missiles don't have a penetrating ability. This one here is a large reinforced EMP missile that can knock out enemies, which is synchronized to fire with these vertically launched heat missiles. So they approach the target in two different directions, so they got to choose which missile barrage to defend against, and always one is guaranteed to hit. This here is also a larger, more heavy um, ground unit, which is also a flanker, and doesn't flank only using the jet engines on the side. And this gun is also a 150 millimeter gun, which I really like in for the grunt campaign, probably because that's a maximum uh, gun you can use for. Yeah, optimize this quite a lot, even though it doesn't use up the whole um, clip length. Um, I do quite how like how the gun design balances itself out. And here's the alternative shell it uses. It's a Sabo HE warhead, which is specifically designed to penetrate the side of tanks and explode inside, doing a small bit of damage because actually the Empire volumes are so small. It's most likely to hit something. And here we have the violet resolution. Sorry, I forgot to show the name of this one. It's called the Vex Pontiff. Because it's a flanker, it moves diagonally. Uh, Here, the Vulgar Testament is pretty simple. It's a hybrid air-ground missile launcher. It has 4 large missiles, and this packs the firepower of the fleet at 80,000 material and 85 missile firepower. Not sure if I showed the cost of this one. Uh, 18 firepower and 54,000 materials. This one, the violet resolution. Whoever said violet is not the solution, have not seen the violet resolution. So here, 71,000 materials cost, almost 30 firepower in railguns. AP heat. It's got its own spotter drone, which is basically just a bunch of engines and AI covered in decals. Here, this is a Bing Blade inspiration build. It's a close range fighter at 86,000 materials. Just with its speed, it definitely needs a lot of support. Most ideally air support to take out the smaller unit as well. It closes in against some of the larger and slower targets. It's got 39 firepower spread out between missiles, cram, lasers, and simple weapons, which is kind of what you expect for something that's bristling with a bunch of small weapons instead of some dedicated weapon system. These are actually decoded over missiles, which is kind of the smallest system I can fit within the space, unfortunately. Here is a Necron-inspired build, the Volatile Whispers, 90,000 material, 30 firepower in harpoons and particle beam. So this is more of an experimental tech build. Uh, the effectiveness is more questionable, but it's pretty fun to deploy. And finally here, it's a laser walker, which is called the Venom Weave. 17,000 materials, almost at the volume limit. 31 laser firepower, so this is a laser defense vehicle for entire purposes. There you go. So that's a quick round uh, of the second army. Then we'll jump into a bit of combat demo. Okay, first off we have 2 Venoms against a single brush cutter. Oh god. Looks like we got a lucky shot that detonated um, the turret. Just gonna quickly repair it and kind of see again. Oh yeah, lots of weak points everywhere, especially some of the better designs. Um, in Ashes have lots of weak points in the back. So we can manually change their orbit mode to different directions, and they also have an AA mode where they can fly higher. Um, yeah, these don't have the most stable platform, unfortunately, so which kind of hurts them a little bit outside of just the extreme close range. Oh, I see AI components falling off. So as you can see, they're pretty effective against these small vehicles in Ashes that have limited ability to armor, to have all-around armor. The problem with Ashes is that because we can't get very powerful guns compared to the naval campaign, the shields are quite effective at blocking just low rate of fire weapons like this. It'd be nice to have a secondary weapon that can collapse shields, but um, space is pretty limited, and ooh, well, they do work. It just takes a little bit of time. Here we can see two of the Virtuous pass tanks against a single bear. I mean, um, yeah, it's kind of a very similar idea. There's not too much to look at. Uh, we have different types of missiles. Keep going against the enemy. Just probing them from the top for kind of weak spots. This pair has been upgraded in the last year or so by the developers or the community devs. So it doesn't really have a lot of weak points other than the fact that it's just a lump of metal with very low firepower and very low velocity guns that can't hit anything. Man, it's got very adequate missile defenses. Woo. Yeah, kind of just chipping away there. Not much more to be done. One problem is that just with how it maneuvers and how this missile launcher here doesn't have ejectors, the missile does sometimes tend to get stuck on the launch pad. It's kind of annoying. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a Tau hover tank, behaves like a Tau hover tank. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, here we can see two of the Vex Pontiffs. Um, Basically, it means, uh, well, the AI is called Droid Bishop. Um, it kind of gives you an idea what they're meant to do. Actually, let's see if I can do it. So the wheels form a diamond pattern, and even without the jets, would allow the craft to strafe side to side. There you go. So the whole craft is built around the idea of diagonal movement. And the indicator lights in the back kind of show which direction they're meant to orbit the enemy. So here we can have a look at the scarab. Took a bit of a hit. The scarab is one of the best tanks in the game right now. And even shooting at it from the side, it does take a little while to bring it down, unfortunately. It's got like 20 meters of wedge armor in the front. So it's almost impossible to kill from the front. And in the side, it can take quite a bit of damage as well. Jeez. Alright, finally AI dead. Alright, this thing, uh, this is my heavy missile launcher. The Vulgar Testament is a bit goofy looking. It's based on a previous design that's a ground-based missile launcher, but this one I wanted to make it hover just because they're supposed to be a backline unit and kind of just be more maneuverable to face the enemy in both turning and keeping um, a decent optimal range. And then additionally, just being able to launch missile a bit higher, it can launch over friendly forces and not have too much of a friendly fire incident. And there's a lot of these kind of annoying large volume units in Ash's campaign, but this is designed to kind of deal with that. You can see immediately we killed a bunch of stuff on this tank. Missile defenses don't really matter. The first two missiles are kinetic, and the second two are explosive or heat. I don't remember, but uh, we do use two different types of missiles just to get through. Um, yeah, get through all that laser defense. There you go, pretty effective. All right, let's see this Violet Resolution fight when the Onyx Watch bombards. You can see it moves in an S-shaped pattern, and it constantly changes the range to target. So it makes enemy crams very inaccurate. Sometimes the cram cannons do get quite close, but most of the time we're able to dodge it. All right, next up is a Vanity Armament Mark II. Despite how much it looks like the previous version, it is built completely from the ground up. Um, in the previous attempt to build the Baneblade replica, I put the laser charger, well, the chargers for the um, last cannons all the way in the front, because the whole thing was made out of heavy armor, and at that time, heavy armor absorbed EMP, but now since heavy armor conducts EMP instead, there's no good way to protect the lasers from EMP, and since they're the main firepower of this craft, it will render it ineffective. So now I put also surge protectors in the front, and I put the lasers in the back behind the surge protectors. So even though you see a lot of heavy armor everywhere, it does survive long enough to make contact with the enemy and not have all of its lasers fried. And here's a cram um, for the siege cannon. I don't actually remember what it's called in Warhammer 40k. And then we have these Deco missile turrets. And then we have the sight last cannons. All right, and it moves in a kind of very unorthodox way compared to, you know, a real Warhammer 40k Baneblade. So all of his weapons are tuned for short range combat, and it kind of just goes up and rams the target. It does have target prediction as well, so if the enemy is moving very quickly, it will try to predict the point of contact. Yeah, you can kind of see the lance cannons firing, the sight cannons. All the weapons are functional, even though it has so many. None of them are purely for decorative purposes. There you go. Does take a little bit of damage each time it rams, but it's pretty effective. It's fast, unlike my more long range craft. One problem with this tank is that because I tried to use up my volume limit of 2500, it became a very big build, which is kind of nice. It's kind of what you want for a Baneblade replica like this. You want it to be humongous, intimidating, but um, the laser cannons are too high to hit their target, which is kind of annoying. I didn't want to rebuild the tank. I don't want to make it smaller. So one solution I found was to use a breadboard to adjust the suspension of the tank to lower it when it gets in range of the enemy. which is why when the enemy dies, you can see it kind of like pop up from the ground and recover as post suspension. It's pretty funny. Yeah, just imagine a jet propelled Baneblade barreling down at you. Um, Definitely not authentic Warhammer 40k, but pretty fun to play with. Oh boy, Vault of Whispers. All right, let's see how this one does. I think what's a good target? Something that's kind of slow, I guess, but still powerful. So I really like warp engines, but it turns out warp only works when you're not in contact with the ground. So it flies when it's far from the target and lands when it's closer. I said land, yes. Deploys these harpoons, makes contact, and then uses this particle lens to kind of just eat away. Yeah. So that's jank. That's some BattleBot level BS right there. Just with how many complex systems it needs to work properly to be able to just do something very basic like ramming the enemy. But yeah, it's kind of a nightmare to work on and kind of fun. And half the time it doesn't work properly, as you saw. There's definitely like armor all the way around that has heat protection, but I guess maybe earlier it snuck through this gap here, uh, which is unfortunate. The real Necrons, they're supposed to be repair spammers, but that's kind of frowned upon in this game. So I didn't want to repair spam it, but also ran out of volume to work with. As you can see, there's yeah, it's just all around not a good time for anyone. Here it is, the Venom Weave anti-air vehicle laser walker. It's meant to look like a spider, but it only has 6 legs, unfortunately, before I ran out of volume to play with, so I couldn't add one more leg without removing some volume by compromising the armor. Also not a great time, but hey, I made this craft. I spent almost 8 hours trying to figure out the walking breadboard. At first, I tried to make the leg movements based on a timing table, but the movement was too jerky. So the physics engine couldn't detect the footpaths on the ground, and it wouldn't move properly. And then I switched it to a sine wave, but the whole craft would just move up and down diagonally rather than forward, which I figured the second joint here needs a phase offset from the first joint, so then the leg could move in a circular motion uh, instead of just a diagonal motion. So that took about 2/3 of the time, and the last see what works. And turns out, in the end, I gave up and I changed the second joint to a cosine wave, whereas the first joint's a sine wave, and magically it works. Um, don't ask me why, but at that point, I was just like, okay, it works. I'm ready to give up and not look at this code again. I don't think we really need to see the laser do anything. Um, we all know what laser anti-aircraft platform does. The only other thing is it can switch between hover and walking mode because walking is fun to look at, but it really sucks as a form of transportation. So I try to give all my craft um, just a hybrid mode of movement, except the heavier armor ones. Then they would just run around run around on wheels because that's efficient and there's not really a lot of point to having light, small but heavily armored vehicles in the water campaign. So yeah, there you go. That's all the army units. Thank you guys for watching, and I apologize to any arachnophobes that are watching this video.